I'm really curious. Oh, whoops. I'm glad Lindsay's on this because I was talking to Osborne the other day. Actually mentioned this twice. How great Lindsay's interview. I guess Osborne was on a Lindsay interview on Zoom, and he said it could not be more, you couldn't do it any better. It was unbelievable. His way to connect with people. So in reality, when he told me that, I think Lindsay should be doing this, not me, because Lindsay interviews every day. But something Lindsay's doing, and probably the whole org's doing it the same way. I think you got to take everything what I say with a grain of salt, because there's people that are doing it every day getting results. I don't interview. I haven't done an interview in years, except last time was when Rebbe was pregnant in her office. So I'm not current. So you got to take what I say with a grain of salt. Okay. Also, I'm an older guy. I have a certain, track record or whatever, confidence from age that I could do this, that I don't, someone like John would say young owners can't interview like I can. So someone like John does not like my interview, doesn't like me even explaining it. So, and you know what I mean? So you got to take what I say with a grain of salt. And that's why I'm curious to hear Lenzai's comments on. And Lenzai, jump in at any time, okay? Because I know you know what you're doing, just based on Oz's. So that's the caveat. Also, one other thing, people say be indifferent in an interview. I can't be. I'm not indifferent towards people. Now, I'm more indifferent whether they start or not because I have no control over that, but I do want them to start. So I'm not really indifferent. And so that may, again, may or may not work in our environment. In any event, this is how I think. I want them to start. I want them to want the job, not to start. I want them to want the job, put the ball in my court, and then I could decide. That's my goal. I want everyone to have a great experience, whether I want them or not, but I want the option to hire them if I like them. But I can't control it. So all I'm trying to do is improve my law of averages. It's like the C factor in the field. If you don't have, you know what I mean? We have the C factor to be able to improve our law of averages. So my approach to me, try to improve it. So my thinking is they buy me, not the position. I mean, even when I'm hiring at Sidcor, even a top executive, they're buying me. Okay, so they buy you, you know that. I believe, like Dale Carnegie says in How to Win Friends, is people make decisions on emotion. And they rationalize them with logic. So you need to give them both, because they need the emotion. And then when they tell their girlfriend, their mom, their dad, they have to give the reasons why it's good. So, but the primary thing, they make their decisions on emotion. And we know that, right? And just, a quick example is a few years back, one of my son's best friends, or his best friend, came to helping me work out, came over to the house, and I was waiting out in front, and he comes in this big red, like, Camaro. I go, wow, you got a big Camaro? What? He goes, oh yeah, the gas mileage, you get 26 miles an hour, and it's the #1 safety rated car. Now, do you think that's why I bought a big red Camaro? No way. But isn't that funny how people are? He bought it because he, thinks it's cool, press the girls or whatever reason, fast car, and then rationalizes. So you need both. Okay. They they buy me. So and they'll buy me. I always look at it as how I make them feel. The better I make them feel about themselves and make them feel, better chance. What's everyone's favorite topic to talk about, according to Dale Carnegie? Themselves. Right? People love talking about themselves. So what I try to do is get them to talk about themselves, and what about themselves do they like talking about the most? Their proudest achievements, things that they want to, their bragging sheet, so to speak. So my interview is in a subtle way, is get them to brag about themselves, not in an obnoxious way, but in a way that it's kind of cool. So Now, going into it, really the only things are, that's like coming in my subconscious, I guess. On my mind, really with interviewing is all of our jobs is to develop people, right? That's what we do, is develop people. Now, to develop people, one big important part is they got to have confidence in themselves. They got to believe in themselves. So when I do an interview, I may not see that woman or man again, but I want them leaving with more confidence. That way I did my job. My job, develop people in every situation, get them to leave the interview with more confidence. How do I do that? To light them up like a Christmas tree. They're going to talk about something. They're all uptight in an interview, because you're being judged. And some people like it, but a lot of people don't like it. And I want them to, they're uptight. They're trying to say everything they learned on the internet in the interview, make sure they got all the answers right. And then I'm going to talk about some subject and they're just kind of like answer serious. And all of a sudden they're explaining and they're so excited and all their passion's coming out. Because I hit that mark. And if I could, no, I can't do it every time, but if I could do it, I got it. I did my job, and my odds of getting them to want to start is great. Okay. So that's the premise of that. So Jamie, can you put on Madison Hatton's email on the screen, please? Okay. Again, everything, in reality, I wouldn't even be talking to you guys about this, except for how well Sebastian's doing. Because every time I bring this stuff up to some of the consultants in the past of how I do things on anything, they would just reject it and I'd understand because I haven't run a deal. But all the things I was saying that I would do if I was running a deal, most of them Sebastian is doing. And he's crushing it. So I'm thinking maybe this works. I don't know, but before I would be hesitant to bring up any of my own ideas. But I believe in preparing. Be prepared is one of our grade 8 work habits. Nothing's most important to our business in a lot of ways than bring our people in the interview, and usually we're not prepared. I always thought that was contradictory. I would never go into an interview that's so important to this person unprepared. And I've looked at it as people know how much you care by how much you prepare. People know how much you care by how much you prepare. I think I made that up, but someone said they've heard it before, so maybe I didn't. Sounds kind of obvious, so maybe it's been around for a long time. Maybe I heard it somewhere else I don't realize. But again, now I only see the bottom part of the interview of the resume. So go up a little, Jamie. So when I look, let's check. I'm going to do Madison's interview first, because Juan's interview is resume is like, you may get one once a year. The resume is so perfect. It's almost like I'm being catfished with that resume, that it can't really be true. The guy's done everything, MBA, sergeant in the Army and soccer coach. I mean, like that's a rare one. Madison, I think, is more typical. Okay. Now, the first thing I put up in those brackets at the top are, what are you most proud about? The reason why I have that question is when I don't know what to ask about, that's my go-to. I could say, what's your biggest challenge you ever overcame? What are you most proud about? And then that's the question. And then, I always go in more depth. Then I go aspires to learn. I love that, because then there's questions I could ask. Now she's at Sterling. I really didn't understand what she did at Sterling, but at the car dealership. But I'm assuming she went from a receptionist down here in the bottom here to some other job that's more important, because she went from reception to this job. It seems like she's gotten a few different promotions. So that's a great thing to talk about. Oh, by the way, when I interview, I'm not judging the person. I'm not trying to evaluate to see if I like them or not. I'm just trying to find out what's their special spark. That's all I'm trying to find. At the end of the interview, I know if they're right or not. I don't even have to worry about it. I'll just know. Huh. Hold on, I'm having a problem with my, okay, excuse me one sec. What's going on? Okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to find their special spark. So I'm like thinking, why'd you get promoted so much? Why was it so important? Go back to the gymnastics. Can you, okay, to me, this is the gold. This is where I think I'm going to find it, because she was teaching gymnastics. That means she must have been in it. Gymnasts work really hard. It's a very demanding thing to do as a kid. So I know it's going to be a lot of great lessons. I'm going to be able to build her confidence from this in a way. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking. And so I write down the questions. Now I kind of overdid the questions here. Just, I wouldn't write as much because I already know what to ask, but just for you guys. But that's how much I prepare. Usually it takes me 2 to 3 minutes to prepare, usually about 2 minutes to prepare, because I've done a zillion of them. You know what I mean? But I will put in the time. In the old days, it was harder because you didn't have time. You have 100 people in your waiting room, so not 100, but a lot. And so people just brought them in. But now we have more time to prepare. So
Gary, can I throw something out there too that I think is
sure.
Framing? Back when you ran your printing company, you've got other competitors that are recruiting the superstars like you. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you told me that, well, for the most part, they were paying more than you were paying. So you had to be even sharper and way more on your game to be able to get people, because you just couldn't afford to pay them what some of your competitors were paying.
And there were companies that were open, been around for 100 years. I was like, this new business, no one ever heard of. The guy didn't come from the industry. People were scared. There were people that had real high, nice jobs.
Right.
And so my whole interview back then was even crazier, because I'd bring them in because they could only come in on their days off. And I'd have them for a couple of hours. That was like, you had to do everything. It was really tough.
I know as a rookie owner, you helped me out a ton, because I think one of the resources you bring to the table is you are a tremendous recruiter. I mean, you ran a headhunting company before even the printing company. So I don't want to sell you short. I think this is definitely in your wheelhouse on how you prepare.
Oh yeah, it's in my wheelhouse. It's just whether it's replicable for you guys is my question. Oh, my only real skill in business, I have 2 skills in business, really, that I feel really strong about. My ability in interviewing and how to develop people. The rest of it, I'm okay in something. I'm not great. But it shows you don't have to be great in everything. You just have to be great in a couple of things. So now going back, who is role playing Madison?
Rami.
Okay. Rami, you ready?
I'll pretend to be Madison.
Okay. Hey, Jamie, how much more time do we have? So I know how to play this.
Well, we're recording this. You can go over, no problem. If anybody has to hop off, no worries. I will send the recording out after.
Okay. So, hey, hi, Madison. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Good. Hey, I was noticing on you this resume that you coach gymnastics. Hey, my wife was a high school gymnast. I always loved the sport. How'd you get into it?
Well, my sisters were always gymnasts. So I just kind of, whenever, as time went on, I guess it was my time too. And I learned some ballet, and I guess the next step was to get into being a gymnast. So I started in middle school and then went on to it in high school.
Okay. And now you're coaching it, or you were coaching it?
I was coaching it.
For 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So why'd you want to coach it?
Well, I was pretty good at it. I almost got a scholarship to go to college for gymnastics, but then I got injured. So I thought the next best step was to stay connected, was to coach.
Okay. So how'd you get so good at it?
To be honest, I really didn't want to do it at first. I wasn't really good at it. but my sisters would always practice with me, and I would practice with them at the gym. And after a lot of time, a lot of hours putting into it, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, blisters, I got really good at it, and didn't really want to stop doing something I was really good at. So I just
Okay.
kept doing it.
So you started as a young girl.
Hmm.
You put in, as you say, blood, sweat, and tears. Most kids don't want to put blood, sweat, and tears in things. They don't want to work that hard. Why did you want to work that hard? What was in you that drove you?
Well, I was growing up by a single mom, so we really didn't have, the best, living situation. I always took care of my little brother, and I wanted to, make it big. I really wanted to make it, to Broadway or something like that. So I decided I wanted to go all in and see if I could take it to the top.
And weren't there times where your friends are, goofing around, they're not working that hard? How do you keep going?
Yeah, I mean, really, I count my teammates, really, because my teammates always wanted me. I mean, I didn't want to let my teammates down. That was really the biggest thing. If one person didn't show up,
Why? Why didn't you want to let them down?
well, they're always there for me whenever I needed them the most. And I think even though gymnastics is more of an individual sport, we practice as a team and we try to win competitions as a team. And I think it was really important for me to come through for them because they always came through for me whenever I was feeling down and out.
Yeah, that's really good. I tell you, Madison, that experience you had to work that hard at that young age to do something that's so grueling, the sacrifices you had to make when you're out in the real world, that experience is gonna help you a ton. And that desire to not let your team down, the desire to come through, given that you're raised by a single mom, and that drive that you have, that is really powerful. Really powerful. You may think it's only gymnastics, but I think there's a lot more. So what was coaching like? Now, you always hear it's one thing coaching, a lot of kids, but it's harder to, when you're doing it, you have control. Coach, you can't really control. How was that for you? Did you like it? What were the rewarding parts? What was the frustrating parts?
Well, the most frustrating piece, I think, for me was, I was just really young. So it was hard for kids to take advice from me when I was, like just a couple of years older than them.
Yeah.
But after I built a relationship with them and they started improving, then they would respect me a little bit more. The rewarding piece, the biggest one was just, seeing people struggle and not taking my advice. So similar to the frustrating piece, building that bond and then seeing them graduate to that next place where they're winning awards and doing really well, and then they're thanking me afterwards.
Yeah.
That was really, really rewarding.
That had to feel good, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So I noticed on your skills, it says you aspired to learn. And I'm sure in gymnastics, you have to learn so many new tricks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your aspire to learn. What did you mean by that?
No, I think that's a good question. I heard a phrase from my uncle, and he was like, if you're not learning, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying. So that was something I really took to heart a lot younger in my age. He owned a business, and he always told me that when I was younger. So I always wanted to aspire to be like him one day. So, you can never know too much, right?
Okay.
So.
And besides gymnastics, because obviously I had to have a big learning mentality from gymnastics, but outside of gymnastics, what are other examples of your aspiration to learn?
Well, unprofessionally, I like TikTok. So, I have a pretty big TikTok following, and I have some pretty good videos that went viral. So I learned that platform when it came out a few years ago.
Ah, very good.
Do you know what TikTok is?
I know, I've never been on it, but obviously I've heard about it.
Oh.
It's everyone dancing and singing and doing their thing, I think, right?
Yeah, it's just like a video reel, shorter video reel.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that that's very good. I appreciate that. So then you leave the gymnastics academy and you go to the car dealership. And it seems like you start out a receptionist and then, bit thereafter, 6 months later, seems like you get a promotion into a pre-owned inventory manager and then get another promotion. Tell me about the roles, tell me about the promotions and the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I got that job just, straight out of high school, just to, help my parent or help my mom make ends meet. And when I started working there, I actually liked it because I was interacting with people all the time and it was always busy. But I think the reason why I got so many promotions, I never missed a day of work. Anytime they asked me to come in for someone else's shift or work or overtime, I was always there. I was always asking to learn. I was always asking to, do what I can to move up. And I was only 18 at the time, so there wasn't really, many jobs out there for me. But I did get a lot of experience. And before you know it, the GM actually promoted me to one of his administrative assistants, and that's where I was able to work hand by hand, side by side with him, so I can kind of learn the industry a little bit more. So that's the reason why.
Well, I love that. I mean, that's our values too, is showing up every day, doing whatever's needed. Those are our values too. That's really, really impressive. So as you look through everything, obviously you moved up, you're very motivated, you're, very driven. You know how to persevere and sacrifice blood, sweat, and tears, as you say. What are you looking for?
I'm really looking for a really good environment. Because being at the dealership, there's a lot of guys there. I kind of want to get away from that. Want to get into a different environment, less, used car salesman, more into a better culture. But besides that, I was really looking for something for, where I could change my family tree a little bit, maybe gain some more experience, learn a little bit more. Obviously, growing up with a single mom, I kind of want to be able to help her and, not just work a 9 to 5. So I'm kind of looking for something where I can elevate my game and take it to the next level.
Got it. Well, look, you have great track record. You have you're the type of person that I look for, and pretty much most employers, if they're smart, are looking for people like you, just driven, willing to sacrifice, going after your goals, team player, loves to learn. I think those are great things. Let me tell you about what we do and why I think it could be good for you.
Okay.
Okay. So Jamie, I'm going to pause for 1 sec. That's kind of my interview.
Mhm.
I don't know if you want me to continue on, or should we go question and answer at this? And I'm curious what Lenzai thinks and how it compares to what he does, because Oz keeps raving about his interview to me.
No, I mean, your philosophy is literally my philosophy, Gary. I love it. At the end of the day, I'm trying to wow the person that, I'm in front of at the moment, and I want to connect with them as best as possible. And I learned that from you in the early stage. I remember BBB, we had a interview exercise, and you talked about not just being surface level with the interview and diving in more deep with your interview questions. So yeah, I love it. Same here.
What do you do? Anything that you wouldn't do that I did, or something you do a little different?
No, I think it's fairly the same. I think the only difference would probably be my energy. I lean on that because I know that that's usually that's where I play in my authenticity, is just using my energy and people kind of being compelled by that. So that's the only thing.
That's good. Energy is good. The one little downside to me is in anything is that I'm kind of too calm at times. Probably even more so now today because I have COVID, so I'm running a little slow, but I think good energy is a good thing. Sabs, I don't know if you're still on. Any, Any thoughts on the interview? What do you do different? What do you think?
No, I mean, I would just echo what Len said. It's the same. You want to get them talking about them and get their confidence in what they've already accomplished. And I don't even start talking about the business until I really understand who the person is and I've qualified the person.
Yeah.
I just, bringing the energy and getting them bought into you. But how that looks is different to different people. But yeah, usually it's those sorts of questions with a very captivating, intense energy, which you're bringing, by the way. It's not like you don't have energy, and I can tell you got
Yeah.
thick.
But it's not as much as probably needed. But any event, then see, when I look at the interview, it's really fun. Now obviously she's a pretty spectacular person. So, this is like a slam dunk resume where, yeah, if you get someone like this woman's a winner. So she was, I didn't have those experiences as a young kid. Obviously that's, so those are the easier ones. But they're fun. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to find that spark. But then when I go with the interview, now what I learned from this is how I develop her. I have to have this conversation at some point. I got to know who she is and what gets her ticking. Now I know, single mom. I know she knows how to get through the blood, sweat, and tears. I'll use blood, sweat, and tears all the time with her. Those are her own words. So when she's running in difficult times, yeah, remember the blood, sweat, and tears in gymnastics? I'd even ask, what was your toughest moments, in it, and how'd you overcome it? That would have been a good question to ask in the interview. I'd probably ask later, or it just hit me. I wish I would have asked it. But then I have these things. Then when she's dealing with the tougher things, hey, it's just like that. You were a little girl, you overcame it. Now you're a strong woman, you're definitely going to overcome it, just like you did in the past. You know what I mean? So it's really important for me to develop the person to know what their, beginnings were. Right. And, any questions or. On that, Jamie, are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Well, again, for takeaways, like if anybody's taking notes on these takeaways, obviously there's a level of preparation, as you saw the resume all marked up, and there's a second resume we'll show you guys here shortly. But bullet point number one, hey, people love to talk about themselves, right? So get them to talk about themselves. And what do they like to talk about? They like to talk about their accomplishments. So, if you're all feeling like Madison, if you all put yourself in the shoes of Madison, talk about an emotional connection. I mean, Gary's really building her confidence. How do you think she feels about the business as her confidence is being built? Like, you got to think that she's fallen in love with the business because she appreciates somebody like Gary, having that type of dialogue with her. So as he said, the goal is to light her up. And so he's lighting her up.
Yeah. And also, I may not get Madison. I mean, she'd probably be hard to get, but she's going to leave feeling better about herself, even if she doesn't come to work for us. And that's, a lot of ways we're like the high school teacher. We may get someone for a few weeks, then transfers out. We may get them for the whole semester. We may get them a year, 2 years, or 3 years. So how do we influence them in whatever time we have? How do we make a difference in their life? But I do think I improved a lot of the averages because I think she sees herself in a different light, realize that she has strengths. Because once I have them, no point having someone if they don't believe in themselves. So let's start the process right away.
Hepster, I gotta jump with my org. We got our org call. We got to get on. We got a bunch to get through. So
okay.
GP,
Hey,
I
great
appreciate
seeing you
It was
guys.
awesome.
See you guys.